The day I turned 18, my parents smiled, then told me why they really adopted me. I packed my bag that night. My name is Elena Harper. I'm 34 years old, a cardiology resident, and a single mother of 3-year-old twins. 2 months ago, I was lying in an emergency room, bleeding internally after a car accident. My hands were shaking as I dialed my parents' number. I needed someone, anyone, to watch Lily and Lucas for just a few hours while doctors tried to save my life. What I got instead was a text message in our family group chat that read, "You've always been a nuisance and a burden. We have Taylor Swift tickets with Bianca tonight. Figure it out yourself." So I did. From my hospital bed, I called a nanny service, paid triple the rate, and made a decision that would change everything. I cut them off completely. The monthly mortgage payments, the health insurance, the car repairs, everything I'd been quietly paying for the past 8 years, gone. 2 weeks later, there was a knock on my door. Before I tell you who was standing there and what happened next, please take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy this story. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching from and what time it is there. I love connecting with you all. Now, let me take you back to where it all began. Growing up in the Carver household, I learned early that love came with a ranking system. My older sister, Bianca, was the star. Always had been. She was 3 years older, effortlessly beautiful, and had this magnetic quality that made our parents light up whenever she walked into a room. When she announced she wanted to pursue fashion design, Mom cried happy tears. Dad called her our little visionary. When I said I wanted to become a doctor, Dad nodded. That's practical. That was it. Practical. I told myself it didn't matter. I buried myself in textbooks, aced every exam, and clawed my way into one of the top medical schools in the country. 4 years of undergrad, 4 years of medical school, 3 years of residency, specializing in cardiology. The day I graduated from medical school should have been one of the proudest moments of my life. My parents arrived 2 hours late. "Sorry, sweetheart," Mom said, not quite meeting my eyes. Bianca had an emergency meeting with a potential investor. We had to drop her off first. No flowers, no celebration dinner. Just a quick photo in the parking lot before they rushed off because Bianca needed emotional support after her meeting. Compare that to Bianca's first fashion show 3 years earlier. The whole family flew to New York. 5-star hotel, front row seats. Dad posted 17 photos on Facebook with captions like, "So proud of our talented girl." I got a parking lot photo and a lukewarm, "Congrats, honey." I told myself it made sense. Fashion is competitive. Bianca needed more support. Medicine is stable. I could handle things on my own. But what I didn't know then was that my parents' favoritism wasn't just emotional. It was financial. And I was the one footing the bill. But what I didn't know then was that my parents' favoritism wasn't just emotional. It was financial. And I was the one footing the bill. It started 8 years ago, right after I finished medical school. Dad called me one evening, his voice tight with embarrassment. "Elena, we're in a bit of a bind. The mortgage payment is due and things are tight this month. Could you help us out? Just this once." Just this once. I transferred $2,400 that night without hesitation. They were my parents. Of course I would help, but just this once became every month. The mortgage. Then their health insurance premiums, $800 monthly when Dad's company dropped their coverage. Then the emergencies, the car repairs, the roof leak, the new furnace. I never said no, not once. When I got pregnant with the twins and their father walked out during my 5th month, I called my parents from the hospital after a scary bleeding episode. I was terrified, alone, desperate for support. "Oh, honey, we wish we could come," Mom said. "But Bianca is so stressed after her show in Milan. She really needs us right now." They didn't come. Not for the birth, not for the first month when I was barely sleeping, nursing 2 newborns while studying for my board exams, but the automatic transfers kept going out. $2,400 for the mortgage, $800 for insurance, whatever else they needed. I kept a spreadsheet. I don't know why. Maybe some part of me needed to see it in black and white. The numbers were staggering. 8 years, $320,000, give or take. I never asked for gratitude. I never expected a parade. But I also never expected to be called a burden by the people I'd been carrying for almost a decade. That reckoning was coming. I just didn't know it yet. The accident happened on a Tuesday evening. I was driving home after a 16-hour shift. My eyes were heavy, but I was alert enough. The light turned green. I pulled into the intersection. I never saw the truck. It ran the red light doing 50. The impact hit my driver's side door. Glass exploded. Metal screamed. The world spun, then went black. I woke up in an ambulance. Pain searing through my abdomen. A familiar face hovered above me. "Elena. Elena, can you hear me? Dr. Aaron Cole, emergency physician at my hospital. We'd worked together for 2 years. Aaron." My voice came out wrong. Weak. "What's happening?" "You were in an accident. We're taking you in now. Possible internal bleeding. You're going to need surgery." Surgery? The word hit me like a second collision. "My kids." I grabbed his arm. "Lily and Lucas. They're with the babysitter. She leaves at 8. Aaron checked his watch. "It's 7:15. 45 minutes. I had 45 minutes to find someone to watch my children while doctors cut me open. I fumbled for my phone with shaking hands. Blood smeared across the screen as I pulled up my parents' number. It rang 4 times. "Elena." Dad's voice was impatient. "We're about to leave. What is it?" "Dad, I need help." The words tumbled out between gasps of pain. "I was in an accident. I'm being taken to the hospital for surgery. Please, I need you and Mom to watch the twins. Just for a few hours." Silence on the line. Then, "Hold on." I heard muffled voices. My mother's tone, sharp and annoyed. Bianca's laugh in the background. The line went quiet. Then my phone buzzed with a text notification. Family group chat. The message was from my mother. "Elena, you've always been a nuisance and a burden. We have Taylor Swift tickets with Bianca tonight. We've been planning this for months. Figure it out yourself." I read it once, twice, 3 times. The words didn't change. A second message appeared from Dad. You're a doctor. You're used to hospitals. Don't make this into a bigger deal than it needs to be. Then Bianca. Not words. Just a laughing emoji. That was it. That was all I was worth to them. A laughing emoji while I lay bleeding in an ambulance. Aaron was watching me. I didn't realize he could see my screen until he spoke. Elena? His voice was careful. What did they say? I couldn't answer. Something had cracked open inside me, and it wasn't just the internal bleeding. I need a phone, I whispered. A phone with internet. Mine's dying. He handed me his without question. I Googled emergency nanny services, found one with 24-hour availability, called, explained the situation in clipped professional sentences. Yes, I would pay triple the rate. Yes, I would provide the babysitter's contact for handoff instructions. Yes, I authorized payment immediately. It was done in 4 minutes. Aaron was still watching me when I handed back his phone. He didn't say anything. He didn't have to. Can you screenshot those messages? I asked from my phone before it died. He nodded slowly. Yeah, I can do that. I closed my eyes as the ambulance pulled into the hospital bay. The pain was overwhelming now, but it wasn't coming from my abdomen anymore. From that hospital bed, with an IV in my arm and fear in my heart, I made the easiest decision of my life. The surgery took 4 hours, ruptured spleen, internal bleeding, another few minutes, and I might not have made it. I spent 5 days in the hospital, 5 days of IV drips, morphine haze, and nurses checking my vitals every few hours. Not one call from my parents, not one text, not one visit. The emergency nanny service was expensive, but worth every penny. They coordinated with my regular sitter, kept Lily and Lucas safe and fed, sent me daily photo updates. Strangers took better care of my situation than my own family. On day 3, I asked the nurse for my laptop. Are you sure you're up for it? She asked. You should be resting. I need to take care of something. My hands were steady as I logged into my banking app. 8 years of automatic transfers stared back at me, regular as clockwork. $2,400 on the 1st of every month, $800 on the 15th. I canceled them all. Then I opened my phone settings and blocked my father's number, my mother's, Bianca's. There was no dramatic moment, no tears, no second guessing. It felt like setting down a weight I'd been carrying so long I'd forgotten it was there. Aaron stopped by later that afternoon. He checked on me every day, bringing coffee and quiet company. How are you feeling? He asked. I looked up at him, and for the first time in years, I told the truth. Better? For the first time in 8 years, I actually feel better. He didn't push for details. He just nodded, like he understood. I knew the fallout was coming. My parents would notice the missing money. They would rage and cry and demand explanations. But I didn't expect what came next. 2 weeks after my surgery, I was finally home, moving slowly, still sore, but alive. It was a Saturday morning. I was making pancakes for Lily and Lucas, their favorite weekend treat. The kitchen smelled like butter and maple syrup. Lucas was trying to stack his toy blocks. Lily was helping by knocking them down. Then came the knock. 3 sharp raps on my front door. I wiped my hands on a dish towel, my heart rate spiking. If it was my parents, I wasn't ready. I didn't know if I'd ever be ready. I looked through the peephole, and my breath caught. Standing on my doorstep was a tall man in his 70s. Silver hair, neatly combed, sharp blue eyes that I remembered from childhood, a posture that still carried the authority of 40 years on the federal bench. Grandfather Henry. I hadn't seen him in almost 3 years. My parents always had excuses for why we couldn't visit. Too busy, too far, too inconvenient. I opened the door and he pulled me into a hug so tight it made my surgical incision ache. Elena. His voice was rough. Let me look at you. He pulled back, his eyes scanning my face, then dropping to where my hand rested protectively over my abdomen. I know everything, he said quietly. Aunt Margaret told me. Aunt Margaret, my mother's younger sister, the only person in the family who'd ever openly questioned how my parents treated me. Grandpa, he held up a hand. You don't need to explain anything, but I do need you to come somewhere with me. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope, cream-colored, elegant, formal, an invitation. My 70th birthday party, next Saturday. The whole family will be there, he said. His eyes met mine. And I have some things that need to be said. Grandfather Henry sat at my kitchen table, watching Lily and Lucas with a soft smile. They'd taken to him immediately, showing off their toys, demanding his attention. He gave it freely. They look just like you did at that age, aren't, he said. Same stubborn chin. I set down 2 cups of coffee and took the seat across from him. Grandpa, how did you find out about the accident? About everything? Margaret called me the night it happened, he said, wrapping his hands around the mug. She'd heard through one of your cousins. When she told me what your parents did, he stopped, his jaw tightening. I've watched this for years, Elena. The way Helen and Richard treat you versus Bianca. I'm old, but I'm not blind. I stared at my coffee. I thought maybe I was imagining it, making it bigger than it was. You weren't. His voice carried the weight of a man who'd spent decades separating truth from lies. I was a federal judge for 40 years. I know how to read people. I know what favoritism looks like, what exploitation looks like. He leaned forward. Tell me something. Do you still have records of the money you've sent them? I nodded slowly. Every transfer, 8 years. Good, he said, sitting back. I want you to put together a summary. Every payment, every date, every amount. Why? Because at my birthday party, in front of the entire family, I intend for the truth to come out. His eyes were steady, not as an attack, not as revenge, simply as facts. And facts, he said softly, have a way of speaking for themselves. My hands trembled around my mug. What if they hate me? The ones who matter won't, he said, reaching across the table and squeezing my hand. And the ones who do never deserved you? The next 2 weeks were a blur of preparation. I printed every bank statement, every transfer confirmation, 8 years of financial records, organized chronologically, bound in a plain manila folder. Looking at it all together was staggering. Month after month, year after year, a river of money flowing one direction. Aunt Margaret came over 3 days before the party. She was 55, sharp-tongued, and had always been the black sheep of the family for refusing to pretend everything was fine. She flipped through the folder, her expression darkening with each page. $360,000, she said flatly. Elena, do you understand what this is? I know. This is more than most people make in 7 years of full-time work. She set down the folder. And they called you a burden. I pressed my palms against the kitchen counter. I don't want to destroy the family, Aunt Margaret. I just want them to see, to acknowledge what I've done. You're not destroying anything. She stood and put her hand on my shoulder. You're just stopping the lie. They built their comfortable life on your silence. You're not obligated to keep giving them that. I nodded, though my stomach churned with anxiety. What if everyone takes their side? Some might. Family is complicated, she shrugged. But your grandfather has a lot of influence. And more importantly, you have the truth. That evening, I got a text from a cousin I barely spoke to. Heard you and your parents had a falling out. Bianca's been telling everyone you've been acting erratic since your accident. Just wanted to give you a heads up. I stared at the message. They were already spinning the narrative, painting me as unstable, preparing their defense before I even arrived. I hadn't wanted a fight, but it seemed they were bringing one anyway. Grandfather Henry's house was a colonial estate on 3 acres of manicured land. White columns, a wraparound porch, the kind of place that whispered old money and quiet authority. I pulled into the circular driveway, my hands tight on the steering wheel. Lily and Lucas were in their car seats, chattering about the big house and the balloons they could see through the windows. More than 40 cars lined the property. The whole family was here. I wore a simple navy dress, professional, understated. I wasn't here to make a scene. I was here to tell the truth. The folder was in my bag. Inside, the party was already in full swing. Waiters circulated with champagne. A string quartet played in the corner. Crystal and silver glinted under the chandelier light. I spotted them immediately. My parents stood near the fireplace, Dad in his best suit looking distinguished. Mom in a cream-colored dress, laughing at something someone said. They saw me at the same moment. Mom's laugh died. Dad's face went rigid. For a long moment, none of us moved. Then Bianca appeared. My sister glided over in a designer dress that probably cost more than my monthly student loan payment. Her smile was perfect. Her eyes were ice. Oh, Elena, she air-kissed my cheek. You made it. We heard about your accident. Nothing too serious, I hope. I met her gaze steadily. A ruptured spleen and internal bleeding. I almost died. Her smile flickered. Mom said it was just a fender bender. Mom wasn't there, I said. I shifted Lucas to my other hip. None of you were? Bianca's composure cracked for just a second. Then she recovered, patting my arm with false sympathy. Well, you look fine now. That's what matters. She drifted away, but I felt the first rumble of thunder. This was only the beginning. By the time the truth finally surfaced, it wasn't explosive. It was quiet. And somehow that made it worse. I didn't expose them with a dramatic confrontation. No screaming dinner table scene, no revenge speech. I simply stopped cooperating. The appointments I was supposed to attend, I canceled them. The family doctor they insisted I see, I switched providers. The paperwork they pushed toward me with fake smiles and shaking hands, I read every line, slowly, carefully, and that's when I found it. A clause buried so deep, it felt intentional. Not consent, not care, ownership. Language that referred to me not as a daughter, but as a donor. Contingent, conditional, replaceable. My name appeared beside terms like viability, compliance, timelines. I felt sick, not because of fear anymore, but because of clarity. They had never waited for me to turn 18 out of respect. They waited because the law did. That night, I packed one bag, not everything, just what mattered. I left behind the clothes they bought to make me look grateful. The bedroom that was never really mine. The framed family photos where I always stood slightly apart. I left a note. Not angry, not dramatic. Just 3 lines. I know what you planned. I am not a vessel. Do not look for me. I walked out before sunrise. No goodbye, no closure. Just the sound of the door closing behind me and softer than I expected. I thought I'd feel scared. Instead, I felt light. For the first time since I was 15, my body felt like it belonged to me. But freedom has a way of echoing. And I knew what I'd taken from them wasn't just access, it was certainty. And they were about to realize something terrifying. They had built their entire future on the assumption that I would stay silent. The fallout didn't come immediately. For 3 days, my phone stayed silent. No missed calls, no frantic messages, no threats. That's how I knew they were panicking, because the Hamiltons never stayed quiet unless they were calculating. On the 4th day, the messages started. Not apologies, not concern, logistics. Where are you staying? We can talk this through. You're being emotional. Then the tone shifted. You're being selfish. Do you understand what you're taking from Claire? After everything we gave you? There it was. The truth, stripped bare. They never lost a daughter. They lost a resource. I didn't reply. I had already forwarded the documents to a legal aid clinic, the same one that helped kids aging out of foster care. The lawyer didn't gasp, didn't look shocked. She just sighed and said, "This isn't as rare as people think." That hurt more than anything. Within a week, the clinic sent a letter. Clear, firm, unignorable, no consent, no future contact, all communication routed through counsel. That's when the call stopped. Not because they understood, because they were exposed. Claire tried next. One message. Just one. I never asked for this. I stared at it for a long time. Then I typed back, "But you benefited from it." No reply after that. Months passed. I found a tiny studio apartment that smelled like old paint and freedom. I worked 2 jobs. I slept on a mattress on the floor, and every morning I woke up knowing no one was tracking my cycle, my body, my future. One evening, a letter arrived, no return address. Inside was a single ultrasound photo, blank on the back, no note, no explanation. I didn't cry. I folded it carefully and put it away. Not because I missed them, but because it reminded me of something important. They had wanted to take my future and turn it into theirs. Instead, I left them with empty plans, empty rooms, and a silence they couldn't threaten their way out of. They taught me that 18 meant freedom. They just didn't realize it would be freedom from them.